Well, welcome everyone to this, I guess, final History Indoors talk. It's great to have you all with us. It's great to have you join us this evening. As I said, we have come to the end of History Indoors after four years of hard work, of plenty of talks. We have decided to call it to a close. But what I wanted to do before we ended this project, as it is, was kind of just think about what has it kind of shown me about the role of historians in the 21st century, and you know, what can we learn from it, and what hope is, what good news is there for history? I think going forward as well, 'cause I think there is a lot of good things to take from this and to think about going forward. So this, unlike usual, there's no me advertising about YouTube or about Twitter or about any of those things anymore. This is just me having a little conversation with you about the end of History Indoors and the future for history. Again, I will say that this can be more interactive. So if you are there and you want to ask any questions, please do ask them along the way. If there's any questions as I go through this, ask them. I'm happy to stop and pause and talk. If not, we can leave any questions to the end if there are any questions. If not, we can all have a earlier night, as they say, doing these talks. But it has been a privilege, just very quickly, just to host these talks um, for 4 years. Make my Tuesday evenings much different now than they were going back 4 years ago, where I was always doing this, and occasionally had a lot of help from other hosts as well. But definitely make the Tuesday evenings very, very different. But that being said, let's progress and move on in this talk. So I want to kind of talk about the story of History Indoors really, because that kind of helps us understand, I guess, my thinking about how we can learn a lot about this project and how this project informs my thinking about history going forward. The project started 4 years ago, as I said, and it was started by me and Lewis Smith. I say Dr. Lewis Smith, I just mentioned that, no, really. Both got our PhDs now, but not to brag or anything. But no, we started it during the pandemic, and we started it because really the question that I had at the time was, how can we as historians help make an impact in society as it was? I didn't have many practical skills to give people. Um, Hi Sam, good to know you. You're there in the audience. Just so everyone knows, Sam is here, and Sam, of course, is a very influential figure in history indoors. I won't say any more about her just yet. That'll come later on. Be warned, Sam. But as I was saying, we started this project. How can we make an impact, a difference? Again, I didn't have many practical skills to offer really people, um, really at that point in time, but historians have a role to play in society, and I wanted to kind of think about how could we, as PhD students, offer something back to society in this time. And what we thought, me and Lewis had a idea, was a series of talks. We could give talks once a week on different history topics to kind of give people some mental stimuli during the weeks to engage people. For people, even though we were all isolated in our own houses, we could come together almost online and talk about history, and have people come across from local areas, from culture specifically, but then we grew internationally and internationally. I mean, I remember one talk we had about 20 people come from Portugal. Many of the audience eventually came from America as well and Canada. And we had this great audience of people from a variety of different backgrounds. It was fantastic. People came together. And one thing I definitely learned is that history can unify people and bring people together. Maybe to disagree, but it can also disagree well in as well, which I'll come to that bit maybe later about disagreements and the like. But what it did, it brought people together in that way. But it also didn't bring people together outside. I think it brought the PhD community together. We were all very isolated in our own rooms. Doing PhDs, as I don't know if people know, but doing PhDs is an extremely isolating process. You don't really have much contact with the outside world as you're just focused on getting it done. Maybe you're doing some teaching, maybe you're doing some extra work, but generally it's a very isolating kind of experience. But what it did, especially during COVID, it brought people together, and we were such a united kind of group in especially those first 2 years, where we come together Louise and Ben, key figures in those 2 years, especially of helping me do the This Week in Histories and the film reviews, especially. But we had people come together to help to host talks. But I think above all that, everyone came together to deliver a talk once a week. Just think about that. We gave a talk once a week. Um, Actually, it was twice a week because we did the same talk twice at the start as well. So plenty of history, but they came together to do this. And so it shows us, doesn't it? Also, history has this unifying factor. I'm not sure you could find that in many different departments, but maybe I'm wrong there. But I think history has this way of bringing people together that other disciplines maybe don't have. But we continued anyway. And as I said, we started with Essex. We grew into Winchester as well. Colleagues from Winchester University joined us on his task, and they gave just a whole new insight, different histories, different skill sets. A joy to have them with us as well on the project, and they added so much to us at the time. And then we grew as well. I know we had Caitlin from Canada join as well, where people from Manchester and across the globe come and give talks for us. Which I think is just incredible. So we grew as a community as we grew. But as I said earlier, we reached different communities. We started the original start was actually just to reach people in Colchester. That was our original kind of goal and aim, was just to reach the kind of communities that we were in the local area. And I remember Stephen Bishop, who doesn't mind me name checking him here, but I remember he was writing into newspapers and engaging people that way to get the story out there. And people took it up. People were taken in by this. I think it shows again the power of history. People are interested in these topics. People were fascinated by the topics that we wanted to bring to them, and so our audience grew from Colchester. But news spread nationally. We got onto the radio, BBC Radio Suffolk, BBC Radio Essex. We got on the news as well. We spread like wildfire, and I think again why? Because history is engaging. It engages people. It helps people understand the present and understand the issues that they're going through, and it brings people together. And that's the story of History Indoors. It was a project that brought people together, and I think that's why I'm most proud of it. Yes, we learned a lot along the way, and we developed our own skills. But I think most importantly, it brought people together, and that's what I always be proud of it as a whole. But as I said, it has come to its end. And my question is, maybe a question might come out: why has it come to an end? Why are you ending it now? And I think the real answer really is that time, energy, and it's coming to its natural close. We set out all we wanted to do. We reached people. We talked about history, and we engaged the community. But we felt, especially going towards the end of last year, that maybe our energies towards it, we're gauging history in different ways in our own fields of work, our own academic pursuits, that actually we couldn't put as much energy as we wanted to into this project. And so it kind of has come to its natural conclusion um, now, which is sad to say in some ways. But I will just put one caveat: is that maybe it might come back in the far future in different forms. Who knows? Maybe someone else wants to take this project up. Maybe someone else wants to do something with it. Maybe I'll even come back to it when I'm much older and have different ideas and visions for it. What I will say is that all the stuff that we have done will remain on this channel, so you can always go back and watch things if you have missed them. I know some people will be saying, "Where the old talks?" Don't worry, all the old talks will go back on the on YouTube. We just got to do a bit of changing and modifying, which I spend my time now doing, as this YouTube channel will become a legacy of the project, and people will be able to go back and watch things. I'll be able to watch myself, try to talk about the British Civil War in 30 minutes. I don't know how I did it. It was the most probably chaotic talk you could probably imagine, but it'll be back on the channel. And I will talk on Donna Bell back, so don't worry about that. And the history of Liverpool as well. Our most popular talk by Mike O'Keefe will be back on the channel at some point. I just got to go back and edit them. I'm sure that's right, Sam. In case that I'm wrong there. And as someone just says, it is still sad news. It is indeed sad news that is the case. I think it really at a point it just was so much to kind of deal with and handle. Um, But again, it has told me a lot about history, and there's a lot of positives to take away, and there's a good future for history in general, which I think which I want to talk about as well. There's a good future for history going forward, and I think history always proves that the future of history is good. So, and you can tell by all my images are copyright free, by the way. So there's just for Sam's benefit as well as like copyright issues here. I went and got all three copyright images. Aren't I wonderful? Um, but also, what wonderful image that is of a castle by the sea, a very picturesque image of the end of history indoors. What is the purpose of history? I think history indoors has shown me a lot of things about purpose of history. I'll talk about a lot of it in the future. One of the things is, um, in general, is that the past helps us make sense of the present. One key question that came up in the majority of talks that we gave was the fact people were saying this helps me helps me understand this topic or situation I'm going through. People always wanted to ask, how does that help us understand this question? And the answer could always be given because the fact is, each of these talks can really help us understand what is going on in our own time period, our own world. It's something that I've come across in my own. I've written an article on this, so not just to self brag here, any of this here, but it's the idea of the usable past. And the fact is, the history is usable to make sense of our own contemporary world. And that's what History Indoors certainly showed me. I mean, whether your talk was about um, going back to the early modern period or something that happened in the First World War, Second World War, people could always relate back to our contemporary world with whether it's social issues, whether it's issues to deal with economic crises, issues dealing with the pandemic as it was then, military history. I mean, remember one talk we had was about the Battle of Khan, but the speaker very, I think, wisely said, "Well, we can make this make sense in what's going on in Ukraine right now." And so there was these very clear links that were taking place between the past and the present. And certainly, I think when I go back to the question, what is the purpose of history? It helps us understand the world that we live in right now as well. It's also I just sort of add as well, it is also just incredibly fun. History is indeed a fun subject. Um, and and history is fun in that regards. You know, I'm not sure you can say that about every subject, but history you can have a lot of fun with, and people can indeed engage it in that way. It can also inspire new ideas, and this I find as well from this history indoors is that from a lot of our talks, a lot of people found ways to inspire new ideas for the future. I find this also in my contemporary workplace as well, that actually we always think that we always come up with new ideas, new, fresh, grand ideas that we have. But actually, if you look back at the past, we realize that most things we talk about have already been done beforehand, or the ideas aren't new. So I'll take an example from my work. So we talk a lot about partnerships and place partnerships in town centres and these kind of things, which is really interesting and fascinating. I won't bore you too much with what I do. But there's one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the arguments about today about making things more informal and engaging people in much more community based driven kind of ideas, we can go back to the Victorian Edwardian period for a lot of those kind of concepts. Maybe not drawn out in flesh as much, but we can be inspired by the past for the future as well. And also, we go back to the past sometimes to understand good and best practice as well. What worked well in the past, what worked well there. How can you learn from it? So we can learn about a lot of things. I think more importantly is that we can use the past to help us move forward in the future. History can help us move forward as a society as we look forwards as well. So, what's the purpose of history? It has many purposes, and I also will go through more in detail. History also helps develop key skills and critical thinking. I mean, I think if you talk to any of our speakers that we had in History Indoors, I think they could all say the same thing. We could always ask key questions on any time period that we were talking about, but also not just the speakers, but the audience as well. One thing I noticed was all the good questions that we got from our audience who were so fascinated in the topics we were given, and the questions were thought provoking. They were critical. They were asking key questions, and that's what history does. History gets us to ask the questions that perhaps we don't ask in our own present time, or questions that we don't kind of think about. these questions help us to delve in and to ask things that people don't do normally. So history builds key skills. It helps people to actually analyze things going on now, but also helps people to just ask the questions: why, how, what if. I think that is also crucial. So history, I think one thing I've learned from History Indoors is that it's helped people to do that. It's helped us to do it ourselves as historians. It's helped us train ourselves a bit more to do that. But also in the audience, especially, I've seen that too. Some of the questions that we've been asked, I've gone away going, "Wow, that's incredible! Never thought that way." History also helps us to argue well as well. People can go onto your talks and say, "No, I don't agree with that," and you can actually go, "Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Let's take away. Let's think about that." You can go back and forth and debate. And one thing history does, which perhaps society lacks today in contemporary society, is that people don't argue well today. I think actually history maybe builds those kind of skills of actually how to argue well, how to disagree well, and then move on. And that's one thing I learned about history indoors is that sometimes we found people in our talks not agreeing with us, but we could have a good conversation with them, and maybe we wouldn't leave agreeing still, but you could still have those opinions. And even within the team, perhaps as well, there were times where we disagreed on matters, on issues. But again, you can disagree and you can then walk away and knowing that it's okay as well. History does that. It gives you that kind of ability to do that. Um, and I just love this here again. Um, love this comment here. For what it's worth, I gain new insights into my own subject by giving presentation and answering the questions, which is completely 100% true. I did the same with my own topic. Is that the questions that were asked us were actually quite thought provoking and made us actually think. And again, that's the whole purpose I think of history does, is that it provides us with the skills. I don't think again a lot of disciplines actually do. And I'm not trying to bash other disciplines in this talk, by the way, but it's just trying to say that history is actually incredibly unique, and we should be proud of that. And that's what the purpose of history is. So that's kind of a brief insight into the purpose of history. What about the current state of academia? How is history doing in our contemporary world? Um, Now, I don't want to be too negative, but I don't think history is doing all that well um, in the academic world. Maybe people wanted to correct me. Please do it if you want to correct me. If you say I'm wrong here, but I don't think history is doing that all that well. We're seeing more universities close their history departments or merging them. I mean, a university that I did my PhD in, they merged the history department with two other departments, and then I'm sure it's doing well. But again, we're seeing that they're trying to kind of merge history with other things. Same thing with my undergrad university, did the same thing there. And we find that across universities, we're finding history is being devalued, I think, more and more, which I think is very short-sighted of universities. Because what they're doing is that they're putting the money behind the subjects of which, um, well, that's I'm gonna put Sam's comment on here. I'm not sure Sam wants me to put the comment on here, but I think that's probably a good point. I will come back to that point actually about that. Um, Universities do seem to focus however on STEM subjects, which again, I understand why they're bringing money, the research grants and the like, and that is fair enough. I think we should recognise that is crucial, and history doesn't necessarily do that as well, perhaps, as other topics. But it's very short-sighted by universities because they're looking at these things, and it's also very short-sighted of governments. I was listening to both parties in Westminster. I'm not making this a too political talk, but just as a point, both party leaders were just going about the sciences and the mathematics as the subjects at university. You don't really hear them talk about history or the humanities, and that I think is problematic. I think what does history give us? It gives us the moral kind of questions and the kind of ethical questions to ask sometimes as well. So I think we are in a bit of a problematic time period with the humanities, and that's not good. And universities need to kind of, to be fair, I'll say this, probably need to get a grip and actually start thinking actually about providing the skills of a workforce, not just about the money, which they do like. And maybe that's gonna that's gonna suffer my job prospects in the future. But I think it's an important thing to maybe think about going forward. But what is history's role in the future? And this is where I kind of will differ from my negative aspect of what we are now, how do you think it's got a positive future? And this is where I think History Indoors shows us this positiveness. What did History Indoors do? History Indoors, um, I just all the comments about the current government. Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna be. I've opened up a can of worms, haven't I? Um, but about the future, I think history has a positive future. What has history always shown? It's shown us that history, first and foremost, is incredibly engaging, and that first of all, history engages with communities that I don't think many other subjects do. It's shown us that there's a great pool of historians that are coming through as well. I don't know how many historians we had at the end, Sam. It was quite a good number of historians who came through, um, who provided great talks, and they all got the great skill sets to kind of give history a firm foundation for the future. I think that is important to say at least. But also, I will say as well that history's got a great future because of that public facing aspect. History Indoors shows us that maybe history needs to be public facing a bit more than perhaps it had been in the years previously. That actually we need to be a bit more forward facing with what we do, because actually people want to engage with history. Um, I'm sorry, I was watching the comments as well. This is great. It's also quite entertaining for me. Um, but history gives us this way of kind of looking at um, these kind of things in a fresh light. I think that is crucial. What does history need to do to not only survive but thrive in the future? I just think we need. I'm not saying we need to discard kind of the old kind of just books, publications, and that's kind of academia. But I do think there needs to be more of a public mindset, public driven mindset in how we do history, to speak it and present it to the public. But not only just to the public, but also to engage with institutions outside of the academic discipline, engaging with with retail, engaging with the media, engaging with the film industry, engaging with um, so what I do now, place management, engaging with towns and cities and marketing and all these kind of things and that's just tip of the iceberg of engaging with all these kind of things, because I think you know history has a lot to offer, has so much to offer. I think that's what History Indoor has shown us. I mean, the amount of times we got asked for radio interviews and for questions and to be appearing on these kind of things shows that people wanted to have the answers, and history gives us a way to have the answers. I was thinking very recently about what I do in place management, the idea of place marketing, and the government very recently had this idea of pride in place, of places being proud about where they come from, people being proud about where they come from. Um, I think that is really interesting as a concept. I'm not going to if it's right or wrong, just but it's just really interesting as a concept. Who are really should be at the heart of those conversations? It's historians. Where's a lot of the pride in place discussions come from? It talks about heritage, the past, history. What does historians get to offer? We can talk about those kind of things. We can discuss those kind of things. We can talk about place history and local history. And that's me speaking as a local historian, so I'm gonna have a bit of a biased mindset. And this is just one example. I know that everyone here maybe has different kind of fields, but just as an example, students can engage in our local areas and say, look at the history we've got here. We can really, market ourselves. We can really engage with communities in great ways than we ever have done beforehand. I think historians have a really good future to be involved in all kinds of things. Again, yes, still the kind of the old academic kind of book research. I think that's still important, but I think we can engage in so much, and I think historians, you know, maybe in the future will be at the heart of a lot of different disciplines, because well, I think we are very important, and I think this is why I think universities are quite short term, because actually they need to engage with history now and to mentor and to build up history departments for, I think, a greater use that we'll see of historians. But that's just my point of view. I think it's a positive viewpoint, and that this all comes, by the way, from my view, yes, um, of my own field, but also of what I've seen in History Indoors. History Indoors saw us historians engaging with contemporary issues, of difficult issues, but be able to challenge and um, these kind of things. It's just kind of thing here is that we're able to offer critique and points in our own society. Historians have, again, I think have a really good future. And history indoors, I just think just proves that. It just proves that actually history isn't dead. Actually, history is very much alive. I think we should be celebrating that. This should be a celebration of the fact of the positive impact and the positive influence of history. History indoors has to play and had to play in that. Just as an example of kind of the future of history, and one thing I learned from history indoors as well, what is that historians are crucial in building bridges between universities and communities. I remember when we first started, and I think it was must be in the first 9 months of the project, where we had someone asked me to do a bit of a talk for the Essex University at the time. And it didn't come to fruition at the end because of other circumstances. But what was the kind of key thing that I was noticing, and I was paying for that kind of piece, was that actually we were building bridges between universities and communities. And there are subjects, I think literature and a lot of humanities can do this as well. But history, again, I'm focused on history, okay? I'm biased, okay? This talk is biased, and I admit it completely. But historians, I think, are really crucial in building bridges between the universities and communities. I think we're able to one speak and talk to local communities and to provide with interesting conversations and the like. I think that's crucial. But also, I think things that I think Lewis has best been involved with the work he did in his postdoc uh, and 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 what Sam's done as well, and some of the stuff that she's been doing. I won't go into, won't embarrass her and just talk about everything that she's been doing. She can tell it herself at some point. But they all show that historians are really good in involving community-based action as well. And what is History Indoors? It was a community-based action, wasn't it? And I think historians, again, build those bridges. Universities are often seen as like institutions, aren't they? Sometimes between towns. I mean, think about it. At Essex, they actually cut off the road between the university and the town because the two disagreed in the 80s. History builds those bridges, and I think that itself, I think, is just incredible. Um, So I just think that's the thing that history indoors show me that historians build those bridges, and yeah, that's again another legacy of the project. I think maybe we've got to take that a bit further. Maybe I think because universities have got to understand where they are. They aren't just a global institution. Yes, I know they are. They're global, but they're also local. They're in a local place, and history and historians can cement that. But there we go. That's just me moaning about universities again. So again, I guess I'm coming to the end of this, but History Doors has come to its end. What is next? I think, as I said earlier, I think there's an engagement for all of us as historians to be involved in public history in some form or the other. There's there's a growth of history on YouTube, of historians on YouTube. I think there's so much to go and watch out there. All different kinds of history channels. So go and watch all that kind of stuff. But though History Indoors has come to its end, I think the fact that there's the legacy and the spirit of History Indoors doesn't, and that hopefully will continue onwards. The idea of historians engaging with public communities, of engaging with audiences, of being critical, of asking the questions, of learning, and hopefully that will continue. That spirit will continue onwards, and hopefully, though the project ends now, who knows? Maybe we'll come back to it in the future as well. Maybe I just need a kind of a revitalization of that. So I just want to just thank all our past speakers. There's some here tonight. I won't name you all, but there's some here tonight. Thank you all for everything you've done. I think you've um, I think you've all done a fantastic job. I mean, the talks have all been fantastic. I've always come away, I think one thing about doing these things, especially when you get talk speakers in, you always come thinking, I wonder if they're gonna, if they're gonna present well. And everyone's presented so well, and it's been a joy just to listen and to host, and they've all been fabulous to work with. I haven't actually, I can say this actually, I haven't had one difficult speaker to have. They've all been fabulous, fantastic, engaging. Um, a special thank you to all the hosts who stepped in for me as well when I couldn't do it as well. Yeah, I especially think of Mike O'Keefe, Josh Cruz, Joanna Strong as well, especially those three because there was times where I dropped it on them last minute as well, um, as well. Um, so yeah, thank you for all our past speakers. Thank you for all the team who have put in so much work over the years. And this is where I mentioned Sam. Thank you, Sam, for I think doing so much of the organising, of keeping the project on track, of making sure that that things were done, of doing all the copyright stuff, especially this last year and a bit, um, of making sure everything went on Eventbrite or Ticket Tailor. Yeah, Sam's been an absolutely legend. So thank you, Sam, for everything. Where is Sam? I'll make sure that everyone knows where she is. Um, there you go. There's Sam. There we go. So, thank you, Sam, for everything there. Thank you to just look at the questions. They're putting me off. Thank you to again to those who run a social media account. I you know who you are, Liam, Joe, and Kate. Just absolutely fantastic. And the effort you put in. That also Stephen Bishop. I know he the last few years didn't do much on the social media, but in the first few years, what he was doing was incredible. Like all the quizzes he did as well were just insane. So thank you to everyone there who's involved. Um, and thank you to the 1.6 thousand subscribers. Like, how insane is that to think about? We had 1.6 thousand people who wanted to subscribe, who were interested in what we're doing. And the viewers of our content, it's incredible. Those who stuck by us, those regulars who kept coming for many other years. Um, yeah, I think you've all been absolutely fantastic as well. So thank you to you all. Um, I guess really there's one more thing. Are there any questions? I mean, um, yeah. I mean, thank you, James. That is a there we go. Sounds amazing. There you go, Sam. Just to make you a bit more self-conscious. Um, I mean, Ryan wants to ask a question about if History Doors could be a fruit. What would it be? I get it. um, I think it would be a. I don't know what fruit would it be. I don't really know really. Um, maybe it'll be of orange. Um, or I don't know, yeah, an orange. I like oranges, so maybe an orange. Uh, all those things. Um, yeah. Are there any questions people want to ask me? Um, you're more than you have to. You can more than think to say. I just was said to say yeah, thank you to all those people who put in the work. I mean, especially when we did 2 talks a week. What were we thinking? What were we thinking at the time? Like, look back, and there's a lot of things that I've learned about what to do and what not to do in project management, and that certainly wasn't something that was wise. Oh, okay, Sam. Sam wants me to highlight this comment. um, well, I've tried, and as Sam knows, I have had my moments of breaking down. um, I should also I tell you what, I haven't, one person I haven't thanked, which is quite embarrassing. Obviously, Lewis, for coming up with the idea with me, and for inspiring me and to getting the website kind of set up as well. So thank you to Lewis as well there, and for leading. Awesome questions. You guys saved me from the embarrassment of standing here very awkwardly. What's the main takeaway from History Indoors? Is that personal or professional? I think personally, um, that's just thing. Lewis is stuck on the train somewhere. I love it. I think professionally, I think I've learned a lot about how to run a project and how to work it, and not learning not to do everything yourself, especially at the start. So for me, there's a lot of learning process. I learned a lot of different skills, but I learned a lot about you know not doing everything yourself and actually let people do things and actually work as a team. I think that was a key thing for me. I was quite stubborn at the start, as people may know, because I don't know how to not give in. Um, so that was a key takeaway for me, and to actually think, actually, in that regard, personally, though, I would say I think the it's just gonna sound cheesy, isn't it? But sort of people that I've worked with and chatted with over the years, um, so even people that I might not even stay in touch with just because of just general life, to just be able to engage with them and to talk with them and just learn from them, their talks. I just think it's been such a privilege to have that history is fun. Like you can make loads of different topics fun, and I think that's yeah incredible for me. Is that difficult histories, but people make them fun to listen to. But all people that I've engaged with and talked with over the years, it's been an absolute privilege because they're all quite amazing in their own way, and that has been a wonderful thing to think about. I hope it answers your question, James. Maybe it's a bit of a cheesy answer, but there we go. Do I think history will come back in a couple of years? Well, I'll never say never, and the reason why I say that is because it might not even be me who then runs it. Maybe another PhD student at some point must take it over, or maybe someone who's got just a drive might take it over. I'm not saying it has to be necessarily be me. The channel will always be here, and if I feel someone is right to take it on and take it over in a way, then maybe that's where a future could go with it. Or maybe I could get the energy back and I go, yeah, I will take it on again and I'll do his talks again. Um, it's not gonna be. I'll never say never to that question because I think it'd be stupid to say that. Um, I just think for now, this is its end. Um, but I definitely know that if I ever did personally want to get back into it, definitely make sure that I've got a good team behind me because you can't do it without a good team. I say behind me, I said with. I say with me. I'm not. I'm not. It sounds like I'm the no team with me to do it. And that isn't suggesting Sam either. That could be anyone to do that because I don't want to put pressure on Sam there. What's your favourite talk and why? Um, that's a good question actually. What's my favourite talk and why? Um, it's difficult, isn't it? I think I I I can't really give the answer because there's more than one talk that I've had a favourite on. And I've learnt a lot from them all differently. One of my favourite ones to host was probably the Madeleine incident with Lucy. Um, it was just so well done, and it had a big audience, which also helps as well the questions. But the fun it was one of my first talks on the StreamYard, and it just went smooth, and it was just good fun. That one. So that has to be up there. I think. Ooh, yeah, what other ones have I really enjoyed? I think that one's probably stands out to me as like my favorite one to host. The one that I've done has to be, yeah, exactly, and also the the cats as well were great as well. The same with Ben and Ben's dog as well was also a great cameo as well. Um, um, which was great. My favorite talk would be my Anglo Dutch War talk. That was that was the funnest one to do. I was most relaxed on that one. I was it's my favorite topic as well, so I enjoyed that one the most, I think. And also, it's the best one I did as well, most viewed one. My other ones didn't get as many views as that one did. That got thousands of views. The others only got like a handful. So yeah, I'll, I'll go with I'll go with that as my favorite talk. Um, just James commenting here. Um, Yeah, I mean, we're thankful, James, that that it has given yourself and other people as well opportunities. Like, which I never thought would ever happen. like, I never thought, oh, this might provide opportunities for people. I just thought, oh yeah, it'd be fun to do, and but yeah, it did. It opened up opportunities, which again, I'm really thankful for as well. And I have to say as well, it was, some of the talks. Um, I would just say that the talks of Bomber Command are always always up there for me anyway. So that's why I couldn't mention yours, James, because otherwise it'll be kind of a bit biased because of my own personal interest in the topic. I've got to be careful really with my own interests, but it's been a privilege to see that and to see people kind of take off from history indoors as well. Um, I won't mention Ryan's comment there because that's not worthy of a comment too as well. Um, but yeah, but that being said, just about my favourite talk and stuff, I will say that there has not been a talk where I've gone away from and gone, oh, I got through that. They've all just been fantastic. I tell you one that I did really also enjoy was the one on by Jem on like Ottoman street culture because that was just so different. I never really ever thought about that, and it gave me a lot of thinking to do about food. And we got someone joining the IPM recently who researches food culture, so that also got me thinking as well. So actually, it's quite inspirational as well. So that was up there. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of the talks we've done. We've done so many talks as well, haven't we? Um, and I should also special I mentioned to I think probably mine and Sam's probably maybe favorite speaker of them all is probably Percy. Uh, we have to mention Percy as well, just because not only was he just absolutely fantastic to work with, but he's just a fantastic person. And in some of his talks about trips to Athens and the co-op were just also very unique. So a special shout out to Percy as well. But I can't shout out everyone, otherwise I'll be here all day. But there we go. I will say, if there's any more, is there any other questions people want to ask um, going forward? Please do. Um, it's gone longer than I thought it would do. Actually, I thought it'd be 20 minutes, but here we are, 41 minutes later, and we're here. So clearly, it is emotional time. I will say that it's been an emotional time. Definitely feel it now. Um, Yeah, just the Sam size here. Plus, yeah, we're amazing. It's an emotional time. And I have nearly teared up occasionally actually during this very brief talk. Um, so just one more just thank you to everyone for all that you've done, and yeah, may history itself live long and prosper as they say, and the like. So thank you everyone. And for maybe the final time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of this. And I can't say I'll see you again soon because that is it. So thank you for everything. And I'll say bye. So bye everyone. And a final bye from History Indoors.